According to the Gospel of Mark, Jesus never multiplied loaves and fishes. Then, Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So, they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then, he gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. The number of the men who had eaten was 5,000. Indeed, Jesus practiced just one single straight cut along the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. In the same way, the sun traces a line across the 2 constellations of Virgo, the house of bread, and Pisces, the 2 fishes. The 5,000 listeners sitting on the grass represent the stars that occupy random positions in the night sky. By cutting loaves and fishes, Jesus teaches humanity a way to feed the stars, that is, a way to assign a meaning to what appears chaotic. To obtain this result, it is sufficient to assemble the stars in groups of 50 or 100 elements, and to connect the brightest dots with lines, miming the action of the sun. The first line tracer. Imagination will then help reason to see, in the resulting glyphs, the characters of tales and stories, able to raise feelings in men's hearts. If a connection exists between Jesus and the processional cycle, the eclipse of 2020 should be reflected in the Gospel. NASA calculations show how the eclipse's darkest point appears in Africa, near the city of Bangui, crosses Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. Then it overcomes Asia, reaches Taiwan, and vanishes in the Pacific Ocean. This path crosses the sacred city of Lalibela, in Ethiopia. Built between the 12th and 13th centuries, on the rests of the ancient city of Roa, Lalibela is today considered by UNESCO a World Heritage Site for the presence of 11 monolithic churches excavated in the rock. Lalibela was built with the intention of offering the Ethiopian Christians a sacred city that pilgrims could reach without embarking on the long and dangerous journey to Jerusalem. According to the legend, the construction work of the city, founded by the Ethiopian Emperor Gebre Meskel Lalibela, has been conducted with the support of the Templar Knights. Following the purpose of making Lalibela a new Jerusalem, the king built the 11 churches in a relatively narrow area, crossed from side to side by a rocky walkway called Jordan River. The NASA model highlights how the Umbra center of the 2020 eclipse will cross Lalibela, following exactly the Jordan path. On June 21, 2020, the planet Venus appears in Lalibela's skies, shortly before the sunrise. Around 5 a.m., the sun's bright disk appears at the horizon, coinciding exactly with invisible lines forming the sky cross. The sun rises up towards the sky, while the moon slowly aligns with the solar disk. The complete overlap takes place around 7 a.m. As the moon joins the sun in alignment with the sky cross, the sky gets painted with a rose halo, and the solar crown surrounds the sun disk. For some long minutes, the planets Venus and Mercury return to be visible, reflecting towards Earth part of the light they received from the sun. At 9 a.m., the eclipse ends, while the sun and the sky cross keep rising up through the sky, reaching the highest elevation point. This unique eclipse recalls a very ancient story. The story of a man who was called Light of the World. In his darkest moment, he received a crown of thorns, radiating from his head, like light rays from the sun disk, and a purple mantle, which, during the eclipse, reappears as the rose halo painting the sky. Condemned early in the morning, he was forced to carry on his cross until the top of a harsh and round mountain, so that his execution could take place by midday. The moon, in this great show, interprets Simon, the man who helped Jesus, carrying his cross for a while. Probably, his figure recalls Eratosthenes of Cyrene, his fellow citizen. The names of his two sons, Alexander and Rufus, refer to the cities where the scientist lived and studied celestial bodies: Alexandria, where he headed the famous library, and maybe Roa, the ancient name of Lalibela. As the eclipse ends, the rose halo in the sky disappears, and the solar crown returns to be invisible. The Gospel reports that the soldiers deprived Jesus of the purple mantle, and no longer mentions the crown of thorns. At noon, the sun is at the zenith, above the heads of the observers. The Gospel of Mark clarifies that Jesus was crucified on Mount Golgotha, and that in Hebrew, this name means place of the skull. In the absence of atmosphere, or if the sun was darkened, Venus and Mercury would appear on the right and on left of the sun, interpreting the two thieves. Being planets, they can't shine like stars, and to become visible, they need to steal part of the sun's light. Christian iconography uses to represent 3 crosses on Mount Calvary, but for sure, this conclusion can't be gathered by the Gospel. 2 thieves were crucified with him, one on his right, and one on his left. It is not impossible to see, in Mark's statement, the 2 planets, bound to lay on the same cross, where the sun is located. None of the Gospels, moreover, describes the cross. No information is ever provided about its shape, size, weight or material. Though it may be surprising, the text of the Gospel might also describe the image of the sun disk, crucified to a couple of invisible lines, forming an angle of 62 degrees. In the famous picture, called Vitruvian Man, Leonardo da Vinci shows how this vision of the crucifix is not incompatible with the conventional one, but rather constitutes its completion, its celestial counterpart. The figure in the square, keeping legs and arms in an orthogonal position, like the crucifix usually depicted in churches, represents the earthly nature of man, squared in 4 elements: air, water, earth, and fire. The figure in the circle represents instead the heavenly nature of man. He is the celestial crucifix, which forms with the legs the sacred angle of 62 degrees. the same formed by ecliptic and galactic equator. His arms form the complementary angle of 158 degrees. Each human has both earthly and heavenly natures, but only in Jesus they are perfectly integrated. Leonardo's drawing is the linking ring between the crucified and eclipsed sun, and the passion of the Lord, as described in the Gospel. But also, a key to perceive, in this, like in all the celestial events, a glimpse of our most intimate nature.
Non mi toccare, perché non sono ancora salito al Padre. Ma vada ai miei fratelli e di loro: io salgo al Padre mio e Padre vostro, all'Iddio mio e Dio vostro.